In today's video we will learn English with the story of Snow White, remembering that it is possible to activate subtitles in Portuguese. Today's challenge: create a summary or a sentence in English of this story and leave it below in the comments. Once upon a time, in a distant kingdom, there was a queen who very much wanted to have a daughter. One day, while sewing by the window, the queen accidentally pricked her finger with a needle, and 3 drops of blood fell onto the white snow that covered the sill. Seeing the contrast of blood red on white snow, the queen thought to herself, "I wish I had a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood and hair as black as ebony." Not long after, the queen gave birth to a girl who was exactly as she had wished and named her Snow White. Unfortunately, the queen passed away shortly after her daughter was born. Some time later, the king married again. His new wife was extremely beautiful, but also vain and cruel. She had a magic mirror that always answered her questions honestly. The queen used to ask, "Mirror, mirror of mine, is there anyone more beautiful than me?" The mirror always replied, "You are the most beautiful of all." However, as the years passed, Snow White grew up and became more and more beautiful. One day, when the queen asked her usual question to the mirror, he replied, "You are beautiful, queen, that is true, but Snow White is even more beautiful than you." Consumed by jealousy, the queen ordered a huntsman to take Snow White to the forest and kill her. As proof of his obedience, the hunter was to bring back the girl's heart. However, upon arriving at the forest, the hunter, moved by Snow White's innocence and beauty, did not have the courage to kill her. Instead, he asked her to flee and never return to the castle. To deceive the queen, the hunter killed a wild boar and took the animal's heart to the queen, making her believe it was Snow White's heart. Snow White wandered through the forest until she found a small house. Inside the house, everything was small and perfectly organized. Feeling exhausted, she fell asleep on one of the beds. The house belonged to 7 dwarfs who, upon returning from work in the mine, found Snow White sleeping. They decided to take her in and, in return, she would take care of the house. Meanwhile, at the castle, the queen again consulted her magic mirror and discovered that Snow White was still alive and living with the dwarfs. Furious, the queen decided to solve the problem herself. Disguised as an old woman, the queen visited the dwarfs' home while they were away and offered Snow White a poisoned apple. Taking a bite of the apple, Snow White fell into a deep sleep, which seemed like death. When the dwarfs returned home, they found Snow White apparently dead. Heartbroken, they built a coffin of glass and gold and placed her inside, so that they could always see her beauty. Years passed, until a prince from a neighboring kingdom found Snow White's coffin and was enchanted by her beauty. Deciding to take her to his castle, he asked the dwarves to allow him to transport the coffin. During the journey, one of the prince's servants tripped and the coffin was shaken, causing the piece of poisoned apple to fall out of Snow White's throat. She woke up to everyone's joy. The prince and Snow White fell in love and soon got married. The evil queen, upon learning of the marriage, asked her mirror again who was the most beautiful. To her horror, the mirror responded that the new queen, Snow White, was the fairest of all. Enraged and defeated, the queen tried to attend the wedding, but was recognized and punished for her crimes. Snow White and the prince lived happily ever after, and their love and kindness prevailed over envy and cruelty. Now let's move on to some questions to practice your English. Leave their answers in the comments. Who is Snow White? What did the queen ask her magic mirror? Why did the queen become jealous of Snow White? What did the queen order the huntsman to do? Did the huntsman kill Snow White? Where did Snow White find refuge? What did the queen give Snow White to poison her? What happened to Snow White after she ate the poisoned apple? How was Snow White awakened from her deep sleep? Who did Snow White marry? What happened to the wicked queen at the end of the story? Can you answer some of these questions? Leave the answer in the comments and we'll see you in the next video.